Every single One Piece fan has had the exact same argument. It's the debate that happens in the comment sections, in Discord servers, and in those late-night conversations with your friends that get way too heated. It's the debate that can literally end friendships. Which arc is an absolute masterpiece, and which one made you want to quit the series entirely? Today we're settling this once and for all. I spent the last month meticulously analyzing over 1,000 chapters of storytelling, pulling thousands of fans, and diving deep into what makes an arc beloved versus what makes it absolutely despised. We're going from the arcs that tested our faith and made us question why we even watch this show, and to the absolute god-tier masterpieces that remind us why One Piece is the greatest story ever told. And I'll make you a promise right now. Our number 1 most hated arc is not the one you think it is. Trust me, this choice is going to make you furious. Stick around. Number 3 most hated, Fishman Island. Let's kick things off with what might be the most disappointing arc in One Piece history. And here's what really gets me about Fishman Island. This should have been peak One Piece. After 2 years of separation, brutal training, and endless hype, the Straw Hats are finally back together and stronger than ever. Their first destination? The legendary Fishman Island that we'd been hearing about since freaking Arlong Park. So, what did we get for all that build-up? Hody Jones, a villain whose entire personality can be summoned up as, "I'm racist and I take steroids." Seriously, how do you waste 2 years of anticipation on a fish man whose character motivation is "I hate humans because reasons"? This guy had zero personal connection to Luffy, zero compelling backstory, and his grand power-up was literally chugging a handful of energy steroids like they're Tic Tacs. But here's what made it even worse. Luffy was never in any real danger. We just watched him spend 2 years training with the Dark King himself. And his first challenge is, what, angry fishmen? Watching Luffy take out 50,000 opponents with a single burst of Conqueror's Haki was cool, for about 5 seconds. But then you realize this isn't even a fight, it's pest control. And don't even get me started on the Noah subplot. Here's this massive ancient ship threatening to destroy the entire island, and it feels completely disconnected from everything else happening. How do you make a doomsday weapon feel boring? Fishman Island somehow managed it. The real tragedy is the wasted potential. This could have been our first glimpse of the New World's true dangers. Instead, we got an arc that felt like it belonged back in the East Blue. We wanted to see how strong our crew had become. And instead, we got confirmation that they're now so overpowered that their first challenge might as well have been a warm-up exercise. Fishman Island represents the worst kind of storytelling disappointment. Not because it's objectively terrible, but because it could have been amazing and chose to be mediocre instead. Number 3 most loved, Sabaodi Archipelago. Now let me tell you about an arc that absolutely destroyed us in the best possible way. Sabaodi Archipelago is where One Piece grew up and punched us in the gut with reality. This is where the fun adventure story looked us dead in the eyes and said, "Oh, you thought this was going to stay lighthearted forever? Let me fix that for you." From the moment they arrived at Sabaodi, everything felt wrong. The world suddenly felt bigger, more dangerous, and infinitely more corrupt than anything we'd experienced before. We meet the 11 supernovas, future legends gathering in one place. We see the slave trade happening in broad daylight. We witness the absolute evil of the celestial dragons, treating human beings like celestial pets. And then comes the moment that defines the entire arc, Luffy punching St. Charlos. I get chills every single time. That punch wasn't just satisfying, it was cathartic on a primal level. Every fan watching felt that same rage, the same desire to knock that smug bastard's lights out. But here's the genius of Oda. He turns that moment of triumph into absolute terror, because that's when we learned what real consequences look like in One Piece. Admiral Kizaru showing up isn't just an escalation, it's the arrival of an unstoppable force. The pacifistas weren't just enemies. They were nightmares made real. And watching Bartholomew Kuma make our heroes disappear one by one while Luffy is reduced to a sobbing, helpless child, that broke something in all of us. How do you follow up 400 plus chapters of adventure and friendship with an ending that makes you question if our heroes will ever see each other again? Sabaodi Archipelago showed us that this world has real stakes, real power, and real consequences for challenging the wrong people. This is the arc that taught us One Piece isn't just about adventure. It's about surviving in a world designed to crush anyone who dares to dream of freedom. Number 2 most hated. Long Ring Long Land. You knew this was coming, and honestly, you're probably expecting me to tear this arc apart, but here's the thing that really drives me insane about Long Ring Long Land. It's not just bad, it's aggressively bad. How do you follow Skypiea, an arc about reaching impossible dreams, with carnival games? Carnival games! Imagine you're on a bullet train headed for Water 7, one of the greatest story arcs ever written. You're hyped, you're ready, and you know something incredible is coming. And the train screeches to a halt and some carny pops his head in and says, "Hey, wanna watch me cheat at party games for the next 10 hours? That's Long Ring Long Land in a nutshell. And let's talk about Foxy for a second. This man has one of the most potentially broken devil fruits in the entire series. The ability to slow down anything for 30 seconds. In the right hands, this could make you nearly unstoppable in combat. Time manipulation should be terrifying. But what does Foxy use it for? Cheating at three-legged races. Three-legged races! Here's what really gets me though. For a brief moment, the threat of losing Chopper felt real. Like genuinely heart-stoppingly real. And then the resolution is, Robin was just better at their stupid games? How do you build legitimate tension and then resolve it with, actually we're just going to out-cheat the cheaters? But you know what the most insulting part is? The arc ends with Admiral Aokiji showing up and reminding us what real stakes feel like. In 5 minutes, he creates more tension and genuine fear than the entire rest of the arc combined. It's like Oda was apologizing for wasting our time by throwing in a preview of actual quality storytelling. Long Ring Long Land isn't just a bad arc. It's a momentum killer that actively works against the series' own greatness. Number 2 most loved. Emys Lobby. Alright, here we go. For a massive portion of the fan base, this is it. This is peak fiction. Emys Lobby is what happens when 400 plus chapters of character development and world building collide in one perfect explosion of emotion, action, and payoff. Let me tell you why this arc works so damn well. Every single character gets their moment to shine, but more importantly, every single character gets pushed to their absolute breaking point. This isn't just about fighting strong enemies, it's about our crew declaring war on the entire world for one friend, and somehow making that feel like the only reasonable response. The world government isn't just the antagonist here. They're the final boss of the entire concept of authority. When Sniper King shoots down their flag, that's not just rebellion. That's a complete rejection of the world's established order, and we're cheering for it. How do you make your protagonists into international terrorists and somehow make them more heroic than ever? But let's talk about Robin for a second, because her character arc in this story is basically perfect. We finally get her full backstory, and it's just pure concentrated trauma. A child hunted by the world for the crime of existing. Everyone she ever cared about destroyed in 20 years of running and hiding. All building to that one moment on the tower when she finally breaks and screams, "I want to live." I dare you to tell me you didn't cry. You're lying if you say you didn't. That moment hits different, because it's not just Robin asking to be saved. It's her finally choosing to trust people again after 2 decades of believing that everyone who gets close to her will die. And the fights, oh my god, the fights. Everyone unlocks new abilities born from pure desperation and love. Zoro's Ashura makes him look like a literal demon. Sanji's legs catching fire through sheer willpower, and Luffy giving us gear second and third for the first time, nearly killing himself to save his friend. The final battle against Rob Lucci isn't just a fight, it's a war of ideologies. Dark justice versus the power of friendship. And somehow the power of friendship doesn't feel cheesy because Luffy literally destroys his own body to prove his point. Emys Lobby is the arc that proved One Piece could simultaneously be the most action-packed and most emotionally devastating story in manga. And we love it for breaking our hearts while giving us the greatest fights ever. But if you think Emys Lobby is the pinnacle of One Piece storytelling, wait until you hear about our number 1 pick. Number 1 most hated. Syrup Village. I told you it wasn't going to be what you expected. The number 1 most hated arc in One Piece isn't Long Ring Long Land, it isn't Fishman Island, it's Syrup Village. And before you start typing angry comments, let me explain why this seemingly harmless early arc deserves this spot. Syrup Village is the arc where your friends quit watching One Piece. You know exactly what I'm talking about, we've all been there. You've convinced someone to start the series. They make it through Romance Dawn. They're getting into it during Orange Town, and then they hit Syrup Village and suddenly they're making excuses about being too busy to continue. Here's the thing. For us dedicated fans who push through, Syrup Village is a charming little adventure that gave us Usopp and the Going Merry. But for a newcomer, it's an agonizing test of patience that kills more One Piece journeys than any villain in the series. Captain Kuro fails the most basic test of an early villain. He's not cool, he's not threatening, and his plan is so needlessly convoluted that it makes you wonder if he's actually smart or just overthinking everything. His pussyfoot maneuver looks more ridiculous than dangerous, and his entire scheme could have been solved by just not being a pirate. Like seriously, just stay dead and enjoy your comfortable life. But here's what really drives me crazy. The pacing. The endless back and forth on the sloped road. The repetitive gags with Django the hypnotist. Usopp's battles that consist mostly of running away and throwing condiment stars. It's a narrative that grinds to a halt when it should be building momentum. And let's be honest about Usopp's introduction. At this point in the series, he's not the brave warrior of the sea we'll grow to love. He's just a coward who lies constantly and fights with a slingshot. New viewers don't have the context of his character growth. They just see a weak, annoying guy who won't shut up about his 8,000 followers.
俺はこの村に君臨する大海賊団を率いるウソップ。人々は俺を称え、さらに称え、我が船長キャプテンウソップと呼ぶ。この村を攻めようと考えてるんならやめておけ。この俺の8000万の部下どもが黙っちゃいないからな。
The real crime of Syrup Village is that it actually works against One Piece's own greatness. It's a roadblock that has stopped countless potential fans from ever reaching the masterpieces that come later. It's the great filter that determines who's really committed to this journey. Syrup Village earns the number 1 spot not because it's objectively the worst arc, because it's the arc that has probably prevented more people from experiencing the genius of One Piece than any other single element in the entire series. Number 1 most loved, Marineford. This wasn't just an arc, this was a global event that split the One Piece timeline into before and after. The Summit War at Marineford is the greatest war arc in manga history, and I will literally fight anyone who disagrees with me. Here's why Marineford works so perfectly. It's the culmination of everything. Every character we've met, every power we've seen, every relationship that's been built over hundreds of chapters, all colliding in one impossible, tragic, beautiful catastrophe. This isn't just war, it's mythology being written in real time. Let me paint you a picture of how insane this arc is. Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, shows up and literally tilts the ocean. The 3 admirals are standing there looking like untouchable gods of war. You've got warlords fighting each other, legendary marines like Garp and Sengoku entering the battlefield, and the entire power structure of the world on full display. And in the middle of all this chaos is our boy Luffy, a rookie so far out of his league that it's genuinely terrifying to watch. He's not the main character here, he's just a kid trying to save his brother while legends battle around him. How do you make your protagonist feel both heroic and completely helpless at the same time? here's what makes Marineford truly special. It's a tragedy with no easy answers. Whitebeard's overwhelming strength can't save his son. Luffy's determination can't overcome the gap in power. Garp is literally torn between his duty as a Marine and his love for his grandsons. Everyone is fighting for what they believe is right, and almost everyone loses something irreplaceable. And then comes the ending that broke all of us. Ace dying in Luffy's arms, after everything, after coming so close to escape, after Luffy destroyed his own body trying to save him. The image of Luffy holding his brother's Vivre card as it crumbles to ash is seared into the memory of every fan. But Oda wasn't done destroying us yet. Blackbeard shows up to steal Whitebeard's power, committing the ultimate taboo, and then Whitebeard himself dies standing up, taking 267 sword wounds, 152 bullets, and 46 cannonballs, without ever receiving a single scar on his back, because he never once retreated from protecting his family. His final declaration that the One Piece is real didn't just end a war, it launched a new era and reignited the dreams of pirates worldwide. How do you end the most devastating arc in the series with a statement that makes everyone more hopeful about the future?
あの宝を誰かが見つけたとき、世界はひっくり返るのさ。誰かが見つけ出す。その日は必ず来る。ワンピースは実在する。
Marineford is beloved because it's the perfect tragedy. It breaks our hearts completely, then reminds us why we fall in love with this world in the first place. Absolutely ridiculous bonus round. The most overrated arc. Okay, I'm about to make some of you really angry, but I have to say it. Alabasta is the most overrated arc in One Piece history. There, I said it. Come for me in the comments. Don't get me wrong, Alabasta has incredible moments. Luffy vs. Crocodile is legendary. The X on the arm scene gives me chills. And Vivi's character development is beautiful, but let's be honest, this arc is way too long for what is accomplished. We spend like 30 chapters wandering around in circles. Crocodile's plan makes no sense when you think about it for more than 5 seconds, and half of the Straw Hat fights are forgettable at best. Nami vs. Miss Doublefinger, Chopper vs. Mr. Four and Miss Merry Christmas, these fights exist purely to give everyone something to do. And can we talk about how Crocodile goes from untouchable warlord who can control an entire country to guy who gets punched through bedrock by a teenager in the span of like 3 episodes? The power scaling makes no sense. But here's the thing, even overrated One Piece is still better than most manga at their peak, which is why we love this series so much. The ultimate truth about this journey. Here's what I've learned from analyzing every single arc. The arcs we hate are the ones that test our patience, but the arcs we love are the ones that test our hearts. The difference between a beloved arc and a despised one isn't just about fights or power-ups. It's about emotional investment and payoffs. The hated arcs feel like obstacles between us and the story we want to experience. They're the valleys we have to cross to reach the mountaintops. But the loved arcs, those are the destinations that make the entire journey worthwhile. Fishman Island disappointed us because we'd outgrown the simple conflicts it offered. Long Ring Longland frustrated us because it felt like a waste of precious time. Syrup Village blocks new fans because it doesn't represent what One Piece becomes. Sabaodi broke our hearts in the best way. Emys Lobby proved that friendship really can overcome impossible odds. And Marineford showed us that even in tragedy there's beauty and hope. That's the genius of Oda's storytelling. He knows exactly when to test our patience and when to reward our faith, creating a journey that feels earned rather than given. So what do you think? Are you furious about Syrup Village being #1 most hated? Do you think I'm completely wrong about Alabasta being overrated? Which arc made you want to quit? And which one brought you back? Get in the comments below and let's settle this one once and for all. And if you enjoyed this completely biased and probably controversial ranking, smash that like button, subscribe for more One Piece hot takes, and hit the notification bell because trust me, we're just getting started on this journey together. Remember, the best arcs aren't the ones without problems. They're the ones where the problems make the victories feel even sweeter. That's what makes One Piece the greatest story ever told.